You propose the Universal Declaration of Cyborg Rights. What is it about?
The Universal Declaration of Cyborg Rights is a document that acknowledges that today our boundaries, the boundaries of ourselves, don't end at our biological boundaries. That the technologies by which we extend ourselves have to be seen as part of ourselves in order to protect the integrity of the person, in order to protect personhood in the digital networked age. So the Declaration of Human Rights, which already exists, protects human rights in the non-digital age. The Declaration of Cyborg Rights extends that to the expanded understanding of what constitutes the self in the digital networked age.
You are fighting the surveillance capitalism. Why?
Well, surveillance capitalism is this system where there's a feedback loop between capitalism, which is about the accrual of wealth and power, then using that wealth and power to fund technologies that are based on surveillance, which means that they gather information, intimate insight about people's lives, which then reinforces the wealth and power that they have already. So it's this feedback loop. And this is not sustainable. This is a feudalistic system. The end result of this is a system where we have a handful of CEO kings and they rule the world. This is not democracy. So the reason I am trying to build alternatives to this and raising awareness of its ramifications is because I want to live in a world where we have human rights and where we have a democracy. I don't want to live in a feudalism.
But Google, Facebook, the big tech companies would answer that all they give us for free is very useful for the mankind. So what is the point?
So Google and Facebook services are advertised as being free, but they're anything but free. The business model that Google and Facebook have is to track everything that you do, to profile you, and then to use this intimate insight to manipulate your behavior to make money. And it's very successful. They make billions with this business model, but it's not free. You're not the one paying for it. The people who are exploiting you are paying for it. Those are the people that are Google and Facebook's actual customers, right? And you are the product that's being sold to them. Actually, you're not the product, you're the livestock that's being farmed. That's their business. They are factory farms for human beings. So when Google and Facebook say, oh, you're getting all these free services, their services and products are not services and products. They are just the shiny farming machines. They exist to keep you in place, to keep your attention in place, so that you can be farmed. That's what they're for.
So, which is going to be the alternative to this?
There are alternatives to the Silicon Valley model, but they require imagination and they require a little bit of bravery. Right now, there are people who are just independent, like us. You know, we're two people working on an alternative. They called us, I think in The Guardian, they called us the punk rock internet, which makes us sound way cooler than we are. But it does capture the fact that, you know, there's 2 people here, 3 people there. We have no funding, right? I sold 2 family houses, flats, to fund ourselves.
You are very few, but what could be the solution?
Okay, if we want alternatives, we must fund the alternatives alternatively. Venture capital is not going to solve the problem that it created and that it benefits from hugely. So if we want technology that's in the common good, we need to start thinking about funding it from the commons. So we don't think about this, right? What are our taxes being used for? Let's use some of that to fund commons technologies for the good of the commons. We're not doing that. In the EU, we are using taxpayer money and we are funding startups, Silicon Valley surveillance companies, right? And we're acting like an unpaid research and development department for Silicon Valley, right? Because we fund a startup in the Silicon Valley model, and if it succeeds, it gets bought by Google or Facebook. If it fails, then the European taxpayer foots the bill. We're an unpaid research and development department for Silicon Valley. Let's not do this. Let's fund ethical alternatives.
How do you think that these alternatives could ever go mainstream?
So let me take that again. one of the criticisms that you hear is, well, these alternatives sound nice, they're free and open, they're decentralized, they're interoperable, individuals own and control them, that's lovely, but how will this scale to match Google and Facebook? How will it scale in the same way? And the answer is it won't. Our success criteria are not their success criteria. The only thing that will scale like Facebook is another Facebook, right? We don't want to build another Facebook. We're talking about the difference between, for example, factory farming and maybe organic farming. That's not even a great analogy because it's not farming at all. But an organic farm scales differently. It scales horizontally, right? And maybe we're talking about a cooperatively owned organic farm that doesn't farm people but just grows vegetables, right? Versus a factory farm that farms people. So that scales that scales vertically. It needs to grow as fast as possible. Venture capital needs this, right? They need the billion-dollar unicorns. But what we're building will scale horizontally. So you start using an alternative messaging app that's private to send photos of your child to your family because you don't want Mark Zuckerberg to be looking and his algorithms to be looking at that, right? And then one of your family members connects to the local community group. And then that connects to the city group, right? We scale differently. Our success criteria have to be different. Well, here's the thing. We're never going to kill Facebook. We're never going to kill Google. That's not even our goal. That's not our aim. I mean, look at IBM. IBM literally helped Hitler to carry out the Holocaust, and they're still here, right? Their head of their CEO at the time, Watson, got a medal from Hitler, right? A special medal for services rendered. IBM's still here, right? Volkswagen's still here, right? So we don't kill off huge major companies because they're very well protected. But the question is, will we have an alternative to this? Or is the only option we will have going forward this feudal corporate system? And the alternative, whether it exists or not, is the key thing. What we want to do right now is we want to get our foot through the door before it slams shut forever. If we get our foot through the door with alternatives, then that door's still going to slam. And it's going to be painful, but our foot's going to be there. So maybe we can start to push that door open eventually. That's my definition of success. It's not very, it's not glamorous. But this is long-term thinking. We need to think long-term. We can't have the same sort of, short-term venture capital cycle, billion-dollar success story criteria for success for what we're doing. We're trying to build a sustainable system, a sustainable world. It's not about technology. This is a social system we're talking about.